Hello, everyone. I'm Krista Stringer, Chair of the Education and Training Committee. I have Jared Woodhouse, Chair-elect, and Tommy McHugh, Committee Member with me. We are excited to present this webinar on the Internship Coordinator Tip Sheet. The goal of this webinar is to discuss the newly updated Internship Coordinator Tip Sheet and highlight additions made to the Common Internship application. As you can see from the official documents, the Child Life Internship is a hands-on experience under the supervision of a certified child life specialist where students connect their coursework and theory to clinical practice, demonstrate competence, and display skills necessary to become an entry-level child life specialist. Internship sites can now apply to receive accreditation status by completing an application process and meeting standards set forth by the Internship Accreditation Oversight Committee. Programs are accredited for a period of 5 years, at which time they apply for reaccreditation status. For more information about the accreditation process, you can visit the website listed, and you can direct any questions to the email address listed. When educating students on your program requirements, it's important to ensure that your website is up to date. This allows students to do research in advance to ensure that they can meet your minimum requirements, and it also helps you as intern coordinators to not get as many phone calls and emails about questions that students could have easily found the answers to on your website. It's important for students to know if you use the Common Internship application. In addition to that, do you require additional documents? Do students have to be affiliated with a university at your institution? Do you accept courses that are in progress at the time of the application process? Do you accept unofficial transcripts during the application process, only to require official transcripts for students actually selected into your program? Are on-site interviews required at any point during your process? Do you require the Child Life Practicum, and can it be in progress at the time the student's applying, or must it be complete by that time? And if at any point your program is taking a break and not accepting students for a semester, it's very important to get that information on your website as soon as possible so students are aware of that. We're now going to talk about the additions we made to the Common Internship application for 2019. These additions resulted from benchmarking done by the Education and Training Committee in 2017, where we looked at internship sites for each region to see what documents they require in addition to the Common Internship application. We then followed that up with a survey to internship coordinators to better understand why they required those documents. These additions were made with the goal to provide more consistency for students, academics, and internship sites. We're asking each internship site to please update your information for the January 5th, 2019 deadline to include the newly updated Common Internship application. The first addition can be found on the first page of the Common Internship application, where it asks students to include a cover letter, making that cover letter specific for each site they are applying, including why they have chosen that site and what qualifies them for the internship. The second addition asks students to list 3 goals and 3 objectives for each goal that they expect to accomplish during their internship. And as you can see here, we've provided a child life specific example for students. This addition can be found in the Common application in the essay section after the essay question on play.
As you can see, we've currently had the Child Life Course in Progress form as part of the Common application. We've now added this new form for the additional 9 required courses. This form is to be used for students who are in progress with any of the 9 additional courses other than the Child Life course. You'll notice on these forms that there is a box where the academic person completing the form will answer if the program is an endorsed program and or if the course is pre-approved. Below are some definitions to clarify what the ACLP means by an endorsed program and pre-approved courses. You'll notice on the additional course in progress form that there's a spot for the academic professor to mark if the program is endorsed. And this means that an undergraduate and graduate program can apply to become endorsed if they're able to meet the ACLP's criteria related to faculty and administration, student support, and curriculum. It's also for a program that's achieved endorsement, or a program that's achieved endorsement can remain endorsed for a period of 5 years and must annually demonstrate that they continue to meet the ACLP's requirements for endorsement. You'll notice on the additional courses in progress form that there's a spot. Oops, did we just read that? Sorry. You'll notice on the additional courses in progress form, there's a spot for the academic professor to mark if the course is pre-approved. I'm reading it twice, aren't I, guys? I'm going to keep going. Sorry, everyone. The common application form and recommendation form is next, and this form is to be used for required recommendations and references the program requires. The goal is for this form to be used universally by all people completing the reference, and that can be for an academic site, a child life practicum site, or other clinical sites. Sites can request an additional recommendation letter as well, but we encourage sites to consider accepting the common recommendation forms in lieu of recommendation letters. This will provide consistency for all parties, as this form does allow recommenders to provide additional comments. If the program requires additional letters, then there is a place on the form where that can be indicated. And on this slide, you can see it's fairly simple. The student fills out that top section, and that helps the recommendation site know exactly what's required of them as well. The common application form and this recommendation form on the second page, you can see that the person goes through and they click where they feel that student falls. So it can be exceeds expectations, meet expectations, doesn't meet expectations, and not observed. And this is a fairly simplified process to keep it fast and easy for everyone involved, where people can, if you look at the next page, you can see that you recommend with reservations, so you don't recommend, and then there's a spot where people can fill out more information. So this is where they can put the story of the student and explain why they feel like they're a great fit or not a great fit. We encourage all programs to consider using only this form without requiring additional recommendation letters in order to promote consistency for students in academic programs and among clinical internships. Finally, on the transcripts, we really feel as an organization that it's very important to consider the cost of transcripts for students. The ACLP feels comfortable with non-official transcripts being used. And so when you're thinking about this process, you are able to decide that you're not going to use official transcripts and consider unofficial transcripts. But once a candidate is granted an interview or is offered an internship placement, you can at that point request or require an official transcript be required. I'll now turn it over to Jared to talk about some other tips and to finish out the presentation.
Thank you, Tommy. Once you have selected your candidates, there are a few things to consider when preparing for the interview process. First and foremost, be aware that there are questions that are legally prohibited during interviews and can be viewed as discriminatory. Please check with your Human Resources Department regarding what is mandated by your facility. It's helpful for students to be given a brief overview of the program during that interview. This can include how the intern will function within the department and in which clinical areas they will gain experience. This information can be put together prior to starting those interviews. Also, it's important not to ask applicants how many programs or locations they've applied to. It's best to focus on how your own program will offer them a positive experience. When preparing questions, ensure that each question you ask has relevance to the information you need to select a candidate that possesses the skills you seek. It's also important to use the same questions during each interview. Consider using a scoring matrix to standardize the scoring process. There are many different interview styles that can be used during the process of interviewing interns, including traditional panel interviews, multiple mini interviews, and Skype or phone interviews. Whatever you choose should be the same for all candidates. For example, if you were to interview 2 candidates over the phone and 2 in person, the type of interview could impact your perception of the candidate for better or worse. Providing the same interview experience for each candidate ensures an unbiased process. Behavioral interview questions are valuable for gaining insight into applicants' abilities. Behavioral interview questions ask about interviewees' past behaviors and situations, which can then predict future behaviors. An example of this would be, tell me about a time when you had to approach a peer about a situation of potential conflict. What role did you play? Instead of, how do you handle conflict? Or tell us about a time when you were given constructive feedback. How did you respond to it, and what did you learn? Instead of, how do you handle feedback? Open-ended questions are also more likely to provide more information about the candidate than yes or no questions. Consider, what was the most rewarding aspect of your child life practicum, rather than, did you feel like your practicum experience was valuable? Professional communication with students is very important during the interview process. Consider having a system in place to notify students that their application has been received and when they can expect to hear from you again, as well as if you will communicate if they will not be granted an interview. Let students know in your decline letters whether you are willing or able to provide them with feedback on their interview, and if so, how and when they should contact you to get that feedback. In your communication with students after the interview process, it's not considered professional to inquire where they were accepted had they declined your offer. However, requesting general feedback regarding your site's application and interview process would be appropriate. The ACLP highly encourages all internship sites to follow the recommended offer and acceptance date process. This is helpful to students and other internship programs as all are given an equal chance to secure the highest quality students and fit for their program. If a facility does not follow the ACLP recommended dates, please communicate that information to the student at the beginning of your application process, as well as when they should expect to hear from you. Please note that programs that have received ACLP's internship accreditation status are required to follow the ACLP's recommended application deadlines. A list of the ACLP's recommended deadlines can be found at childlife.org, as well as on this next slide. The offer acceptance process, as you can see, is clearly laid out for each session during the year. For the example, if you're having a summer intern, the application deadline would be January 5th. The initial offer deadline would be February 12th. 24 hours after that, the student could accept or decline your offer on the 13th. And then on the 14th, your second offer could be made. But what happens if you haven't secured an intern after that second offer? Well, the short answer is make another offer. The following comes directly from the Internship Accreditation Oversight Committee. Accredited child life internship sites are welcome to make offers after the second round offer date as long as they have initially followed the application, offer, and acceptance deadlines set by the ACLP. This gives programs an opportunity to fill spots that would otherwise go vacant for a semester and provides more students with those sought-after placements. Offers after the second offer date may only be extended to candidates from the original pool and not from a new search. For example, your accredited internship program has 2 spots. You had one of your offers accept, but the other student that you offered the internship turned you down. You can go back to your pool of applicants to see if there are other well-qualified applicants you should consider, conduct interviews if necessary, and then make second-round offers. Another example would be your accredited internship program has 1 internship spot. You made an offer, but that candidate did not select your program. There is a degree program at a university nearby. You reach out to that program director to see if they have any students that did not gain an internship placement, and you ask to see their applications. Since this is before you've made that second round offer, you can look at their applications and potentially select another well-qualified applicant to make on that second offer round. To help internship coordinators get a general idea of potential costs associated with applying for internships, the Education and Training Committee put together the following cost analysis. This is meant to be a general guideline and not necessarily indicative of actual costs accrued, as expenses can vary per internship program. The following estimate is provided to aid students in planning accordingly and is based upon the applicant applying to approximately 15 internship sites. As you can see, that applicant could spend between $600 to over $1,000 applying to sites during their process. Keeping these costs in mind, we encourage you to consider accepting unofficial transcripts, which are a large source of financial strain on students, until they have selected or you have selected them to be your intern. at which time you can then request official transcripts. Also, consider those additional application fees and see if there's a way to lower or avoid those fees altogether. Also, could your program move to an electronic or emailed recommendation process and application process, which would limit the amount of postage that students need to purchase? Some final thoughts. While we realize we cannot make the common application and other forms to completely satisfy every site, these new forms were created with feedback from students, academics, and clinical coordinators. Through benchmarking research, listening to all parties throughout meetings, and monitoring forum posts, these forms were created. Recognizing that there has been a significant need for more consistency for all parties, students, academics, and clinical coordinators throughout the internship application process, it is the hope of the Education and Training Committee that these forms will aid in creating this much needed consistency. We've put together some resources for you. These can all be found at childlife.org. We want to thank the Academic Review Committee and the Internship Accreditation Oversight Committee for their collaboration in creating these new documents and providing information we shared in the webinar about academic programs and accredited programs. You can look out for a live version of this webinar in spring 2019, and there's more to come over the forums about a specific date and time for that. Thank you all for tuning in today.